Picture this. It's Super Bowl Sunday. You're surrounded by friends, snacks are everywhere, and then bam, a commercial comes on featuring Bill Murray reliving Groundhog Day in a Jeep. Or perhaps Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul back as Walter and Jesse from Breaking Bad, but this time they're selling popcorners. You laugh, you share it on social media, you remember the brand. And that's the magic of character and IP licensing in Super Bowl advertising. And with 30-second spots now costing $8 million, yes, $8 million, brands aren't just buying airtime, they're having to buy cultural moments. And characters, they're the secret weapon. Today we're talking all things Super Bowl and licensing. I'm David Bourne, and this is Born to License. Now, before I get started, I should say that I'm recording this on the Friday before Super Bowl 60, and if you're anything like me, you're just as excited about the commercials as you are about the game itself. In fact, to be honest, I don't care much for the game at all. Show me the ads. Now, no event is more synonymous with advertising than the Super Bowl. Every year, brands pull out all the stops, spending millions to capture our attention for just a few seconds. And one of the most effective ways to do that is character and IP licensing. You see, when everyone is spending big on celebrities, spectacle, and special effects, you need something that cuts through the clutter. Something familiar, something that triggers nostalgia, excitement, or pure joy. And that's where licensed characters and intellectual property come in. Now, I'm not talking about theatrical trailers or brands promoting their own IP like the Pokemon ad that's already generating a lot of buzz this year. I'm talking about third-party advertisers licensing beloved characters, films, and franchises to make their brands unforgettable. Today, I'm breaking down some of my favorite examples from the past decade, including one I worked on through our Born licensing division. Let's dive in. Before we get to specific examples, let's talk about why licensing works so well in Super Bowl advertising. First, nostalgia is a powerful drug. When you see Bill Murray back in Groundhog Day or Alicia Silverstone reprising her role from Clueless, it's an instant emotional connection. You're not just watching an ad, you're revisiting a piece of your own history. Second, characters cut through the noise. With dozens of brands competing for attention, a familiar face or puppet or animated character can stop the scroll, literally and figuratively. And third, it signals quality and ambition. Licensing major IP isn't cheap or easy. It requires clearances, negotiations, and always involves the cooperation of multiple stakeholders. When a brand does it well, it shows they're serious about making an impact. Now, the way brands use IP in Super Bowl ads is incredibly diverse. For example, you could have original talent reprising iconic roles, like Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul returning as Walter and Jesse from Breaking Bad for Popcorners. That was in 2023. You could have new talent playing established characters like Timothy Chalamet as the son of Edward Scissorhands for Cadillac. Sometimes it's talent recreating iconic scenes they never originally played, like, again, Bryan Cranston, but this time with Tracy Ellis Ross recreating that creepy moment from The Shining for Mountain Dew. Then there are thematic elements like Facebook's Rocky-inspired campaign, which is actually one that we managed at Born Licensing, or bespoke animation like when Pringles partnered with Rick and Morty in 2020. You've got toy integration like Anna Kendrick playing with Barbies for Rocket Mortgage. I loved that one. You've got famous puppets making appearances, Sesame Street for DoorDash, the Muppets for Booking.com, and sometimes it's even simpler than that. Sometimes it's just the use of existing footage, like Discover's 2020 ad that featured clips from Friends, Clueless, Austin Powers, and more. The point is, there's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to licensing IP in Super Bowl advertising. The best campaigns find creative, authentic ways to integrate the IP that feels natural to both the brand and the property. All right, so let's get into the good stuff. Here are my top picks from the past decade, and trust me, I could talk about this all day. It was very difficult to choose this short list, but I think here is the best of the best. I have to start with Facebook and Rocky in 2020 because this was a campaign I worked on through our Born licensing division. This was Facebook's first ever Super Bowl ad, and they went big. They used thematic elements from the Rocky films, such as the Rocky Stairs in Philadelphia, not to mention the man himself, Sylvester Stallone, made an appearance to tie together various rock-themed Facebook groups. Even had an appearance by Chris Rock. It was a Herculean undertaking, but the clever use of IP in advertising made it worth every second. This one always puts a smile on my face. Let's move on to Jeep and Groundhog Day, which was also 2020. If there's one campaign I wish I could have worked on, it's this one. Bill Murray reprising his role as Phil Connors. Genius. Pure genius. Groundhog Day is such a cultural touchstone, and Jeep nailed the tone. It was funny, nostalgic, and perfectly in line with the film's spirit. It's proof that when you get the IP and the execution right, magic happens. Also in 2020, this was a big year for licensed advertising, Mountain Dew and The Shining. Some moments are just iconic, and that creepy "Here's Johnny" scene from The Shining is one of them. Mountain Dew took that and had Bryan Cranston and Tracy Ellis Ross recreate it in their own hilarious way. They didn't just rehash the original, they added layers of fun by casting A-list talent, and that's how you honor IP while keeping it fresh. Still on 2020, Pringles and Rick and Morty. Do you know how long bespoke animation takes? It takes a long time. But Rick and Morty pulled it off with a totally meta, totally on-brand Pringles spot. It was self-aware, unhinged, and authentic to the series. Fans loved it because it didn't feel like a cash grab. It felt like an actual Rick and Morty episode, and that's the gold standard. Last one for 2020, Discover with various clips. Here's a licensing challenge that most people don't think about. Compiling clips from multiple films and TV shows like Discover did with their famous characters saying no montage. Every single clip, Friends, Clueless, Austin Powers, requires separate clearances and payments, not just for the IP, but for the talent that appears in the clips as well. It's a logistical nightmare, but the payoff was a fun, memorable ad that showcased the breadth of licensing possibilities. Moving on to 2021, DoorDash and Sesame Street. Sesame Workshop, I know, is extremely selective about who they partner with and how their characters are used. And they should be. They're an iconic kids brand. But what I loved about this DoorDash campaign was it felt true to Sesame Street's mission. It was sweet, community-focused, and values-driven. And that's how you earn trust with a property like that. Also that year, Cadillac and Edward Scissorhands. This one was incredible. Casting Timothy Chalamet as Edward's son, totally awesome. Getting Winona Ryder to reprise her role, even better. This ad had everything: nostalgia, star power, and a creative concept that felt like a natural extension of the original film. 5 stars, no notes. Moving on to 2023, Rakuten and Clueless. Alicia Silverstone and Elisa Donovan reprising their debate from Clueless as if there could be anything better. This one hit all the nostalgia buttons and showed how a beloved film can still resonate decades later. Rakuten understood their audience and delivered exactly what they wanted to see. Also that year was one I've already mentioned before, Popcorners and Breaking Bad. Here's the thing. It's unlikely this campaign would have been approved while Breaking Bad was still on air, but bringing Walter and Jesse back 10 years after the finale, that is perfect timing. Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul reprising their roles added legitimacy and humor in equal measure. It's a masterclass in knowing when to deploy IP. The last example to talk about today was last year, Booking.com and The Muppets. Full disclosure, I've worked with The Muppets before on a Barclaycard Entertainment campaign, so I know firsthand how complex it is to work with these Jim Henson creations. There are so many moving parts, literally so many moving parts. Whenever I see a Muppets campaign go live, I have nothing but respect for everyone involved. It is no small feat, that's for sure. So, what can we expect from this year's Super Bowl? Well, I'm recording this on Friday before the game. We've already seen 2 fascinating examples of character licensing go live. Let me talk about those. First up, Xfinity is making its national Super Bowl debut by partnering with one of the most iconic films in history, Jurassic Park. The spot reunites Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, all reprising their iconic roles, and it's directed by none other than Taika Waititi. The premise: what if Jurassic Park actually worked? What if Xfinity Tech had gotten the park back online before everything went wrong? The actors were digitally de-aged, and the spot featured John Williams' original score and visual effects from Industrial Light and Magic, the same house that created the dinosaurs in the original film. It's a clever what-if scenario that plays with one of cinema's most memorable franchises. I really, really love what they've done here. The second is Expedia, which has partnered with Mattel to make Ken, yes, Barbie's Ken, that Ken, their newest brand ambassador for his 65th anniversary. The spot, titled Going Places with Ken, shows him as a first-time traveler visiting destinations like Italy, Japan, and Mexico City. This is a year-long partnership that positions Ken as a symbol of reinvention and trying new things. Since the 2023 Barbie movie turned Ryan Gosling's portrayal of Ken into a cultural phenomenon with that I'm Just Ken musical number, Ken has been having a pretty big moment. Expedia clearly saw an opportunity to capitalize on that renewed relevance. It's playful, it's unexpected, and it's exactly the kind of bold licensing play that gets people talking. Both of these campaigns demonstrate something crucial about Super Bowl advertising in 2026. Brands aren't just licensing IP for a quick nostalgia hit. They're committing to long-term partnerships, investing in production value, and finding creative ways to integrate these characters into their brand stories. With media slots now at $8 million, brands have to justify that spend. And licensing the right IP done the right way is one of the most effective strategies out there. All right, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this dive into character and IP licensing in Super Bowl advertising. If you're watching the big game this weekend, keep an eye out for how brands are using licensed properties. I guarantee you'll see it everywhere. And hey, if you spot an ad that blows your mind or one that totally misses the mark, send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for listening. I'm David Bourne, and this has been Born to License.